Hello, I'm Machine, and this is a lot different from the stuff I usually do, but I saw the latest Sandersides episode, and I have a lot of thoughts. So this is going to be a quick little ramble on what I think about the dark sides, and what I think the seventh side is going to be. Spoilers for, all of Sandersides. If you haven't watched it, go do that. Seriously, it's worth the binge watching. Also, I didn't do any research or rewatching before writing this, so I'm going to be vague on many things. I'm working from a notoriously shoddy memory. But this is all wild speculation anyway, so it doesn't matter. Let's go! If you've been in the fandom for any amount of time, you've likely run across the rainbow theory. This theory says there's going to be 7 sides, each a different color of the rainbow. 3 light, 3 dark, and 1 gray side, who doesn't fall on either team. I didn't buy into this theory at first, but I do now, especially looking at the thumbnail of the latest episode, which clearly shows 7 slots for 7 sides. The reason I disregarded this theory for so long was because it seemed very likely that Virgil was just a dark side who switched teams. But after the latest episode, particularly Janus's name reveal, that made it clear that Virgil is not like the other dark sides, and fit more in the area of a gray side that I mentioned earlier. The reasons for this are mostly The reasons for this are mostly meta, the naming themes and where the sides stand. Physically stand. There's a clear theme with the names. Heck, the thing that tipped me off that Virgil was a dark side was how nobody knew his name. The names are key. They're all 2 syllables, and among the light sides, Logan, Roman, and Patton, they all end in N. Virgil is the odd one out there, and was before we even knew the dark sides were a thing, so it was easy to assume his name was just like that. But after the introduction of Remus and Deceit's name reveal, it seems like dark sides have names that end in US, a theme Virgil once again breaks. Then there's the fact that the sides always stand in the same place. As the light sides were introduced first, they all have their own places, and when the dark sides show up, they tend to stand in their spots. Deceit takes Logan and Patton's spots due to impersonating them, and Remus knocks out Roman in intrusive thoughts and stays in his spot when he isn't busy screwing over reality. Virgil, on the other hand, has his own spot, and I don't believe he's been replaced there yet at any point. So the places they stand are also, obviously, important. So let's go back to that rainbow theory. You have Logan, Roman, and Patton as light sides, Virgil as a gray side, and Janus, Remus, and a supposed orange side for the dark sides. The reason Virgil is a gray side, despite admitting to being one of the dark sides, lies at the end of Intrusive Thoughts. After Roman wakes up, he talks about his brother, bringing up how his existence as a twisted creativity is like looking in a funhouse mirror. I believe this is true for all the dark sides except Virgil. They're funhouse mirror twins to what the light sides stand for. The reason Virgil is different is because fear is inherently both good and bad, instead of being able to be separated into the two. Heck, there's a 2-parter explaining that fact, how fear is necessary for someone to function, but can also be unhealthy in high amounts. Virgil is clearly aware of the bad aspects of fear, but needs to be talked into seeing the good of his existence. Geez, that's sad! The other 3, however, seemed focused exclusively on the good aspects of their aspect. I don't know what to call it. Let's start with Roman and Remus, as they are the most obvious to exhibit this trend. For starters, there's the whole evil twin thing. They are clearly meant to be the same aspect. Notably, when Remus first shows up and is asked what the heck he is, his response is, "I'm creativity!" Not dark creativity, not intrusive thoughts, not blood and gore and all the other stuff. Just creativity. Nothing more, nothing less. In the song preceding that, he points out how people don't like me much, Thomas, but it's only just 'cause I'm honest. Good and bad is all made up nonsense. I'm sorry, I got carried away. But that last bit about good and bad is also interesting, as Remus's whole deal is that he's the evil twin. You think an evil twin who wields a morning star and whose job seems to be spreading thoughts of murder would be vocal about being an evil twin. But no, he's just doing his thing. I have seen theories stating that Roman and Remus used to be the same side, often dubbed king, before something or someone, often Patton, split them apart. And I can believe that. Roman seems to be the softer, nicer, cleaner side of creativity, and Remus just fills in whatever people don't want to think about. Keep that thought in mind, it's important for the seventh side. Now, I've seen a lot of people drawing comparisons between Janus and Patton, casting Janus as a foil to the resident dad. But I don't agree with that. Sure, the first person he impersonates is Patton, and he goes up against him in selfishness versus selflessness, which I love how that episode title reads like a court case, but think for a moment. Deceit and morality are opposed, definitely, but as I just went over with the creativity twins, the dark sides are not opposed to their counterparts. They're different views of the same aspect. And that's why I believe Janus is a counterpoint not to Patton, but to Logan. And I will go over the obvious real quick. Janus has been standing in Logan's spot for the last two videos. His yellow is complementary to Logan's indigo, similar to Roman's red and Remus's green, and Patton's blue and the hypothetical orange side. Logan is the one who shuts him down in his debut. Logan is the one who shuts him down when he first shows up, and gets benched during selfishness versus selflessness, where Janus clearly has the reins, but there's a lot more in the way Janus acts that makes the slithery snake a better foil to Logan than Patton. Now let's go all the way back to Can Lying Be Good? Janus, disguised as Patton, is asked about lying. He starts off with something Patton would say, that lying is bad. And then he follows it up with the philosophy lecture on the teachings of Immanuel Kant. Also notice, that's what tips Virgil off that this isn't Patton. That he's spouting research in a similar fashion to what Logan does. And then he gives the other sides an example of Kant's theory in action, an example that ends with you being responsible for the death of a friend. This, naturally, causes Thomas some distress, and begins to put the idea in their heads that maybe lying can be good. Like I said earlier, I haven't rewatched the episode in a while, but tell me, at any point before the reveal, does Janus try to change Thomas's mind by flat-out falsehoods? Or does he use parts of facts and evidence stacked to favor a certain point of view? Sure, at the end of the episode, every word out of his mouth is literally every word out of his mouth is a lie. But before that, when he's actually trying to deceive Thomas, nothing he says is really untrue. Janus isn't lies, not falsehoods, but deceit. And deceit is a lot more complicated than it looks. Logan is logic, used to pursue the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Janus is logic, used to pursue whatever you want to hear. The dark sides are a mirror to the light sides, but a mirror doesn't show the opposite of something. It shows the same thing in a different angle. Perhaps the best evidence of the mirror nature of Janus and Logan is a brief conversation from Selfishness versus Selflessness. In an attempt to prove his point, Janus brings up the philosophy of... I have forgotten who they talked about. It's some dickweed philosopher. Anyway, he brings up how this philosopher believed in equality for all men. Logan then points out how the dickweed philosopher was a racist, which is clearly incompatible with equality for all, and Janus says, yes, but we're not talking about that now. If that does not spell out exactly what I'm trying to say, I don't know how else to explain it. So, on to what I was actually going to talk about. How long have I been talking? 9 minutes. I wanted this to be short. Okay, I'm actually getting to the point now. Okay, so the last two sides when the last two sides have been introduced, I believe they both happened when the character they foiled was not in a good place. Logan is just generally getting kicked around by the other sides when Janus shows up. Roman is having some massive identity issues as a result of selfishness versus selflessness when Remus appears. And now, Patton. Patton is not having a good time. Let's talk about him. Patton is morality and emotion. However, despite being morality, his moral code is very simple, not going much further than don't hurt people, help them instead. That's not bad, of course, but it falls apart when faced with difficult issues because he hasn't really thought it through. He doesn't have rules, per se. In the latest episode, for example, a simple trolley problem is presented, when most people have a moral code, moral rules, developed enough to decide on whether or not to flip the lever. When Patton is presented with this trolley problem, he freaks out, turns into a frog, and threatens the lives of famous actors and newlyweds, which is not a sentence I'd ever thought I'd say. Patton is clearly acting on a case-by-case basis for morality, without any clear rules for how difficult cases should be handled, something that becomes very clear in putting others first. And this is where I'm gonna leave analysis and enter wild speculation. Remember how when talking about Roman and Remus, I brought up how they were the same aspect, only Roman is just the cleaner parts of creativity? Think about that again, because that's what I think is going to happen with Patton and the mysterious orange side. They won't have the twin thing going on, of course, but I suspect orange will exemplify a harsher morality than Patton does. I expected this side to be a twisted form of justice, vengeance even, bound to a code that never wavers, even when it really should. Also, despite being emotion, which you think would encompass all emotion, Patton is the only side who I can't remember really getting angry. He seems to always be either happy or sad or scared in some regard. All the harm he causes in the latest episodes is born of worry, not malice. So where the heck are all the emotions that aren't so soft and friendly? Probably this guy. That's why I also suspect he will be the most threatening of the sides, and that's why he came last. Janus is helping in his own way. Remus doesn't take anything seriously, but this guy is like 5 seconds away from murdering someone who slights him. Here it's like this. If someone did something that messed with Patton, he'd let it go. This guy would lash out and demand not to be treated like that. The dark sides are aspects every human has, but doesn't want to admit they have. An honest person has the capacity for deceit. A pure-hearted person can have dark thoughts. And a nice person can get very, very angry. The gut instinct to deny that these aspects exist has been present every time the dark sides show up, which is why Janus being given a seat at the metaphorical table at the end of putting others first is perfect. From a character perspective, Janus has never been malicious. Unlike Virgil, he doesn't need a redemption arc, he just needs the others to recognize him as one of them. From the perspective of these guys are personifications of abstract concepts, Thomas has recognized his own capacity for deceit and accepted it as part of himself without compromising his morality. This similar aspect of acceptance without compromise was crucial to intrusive thoughts in everything about Remus, and I expect it to be equally crucial in dealing with Orange. Anger is human, but we don't like to admit we can hurt people. So, a dark side of anger and vengeance would make sense. The dark sides have an odd amount of religious imagery about them. Janus is the snake with the forbidden fruit. Remus mentions both Adam and Eve and Cain and Abel, the latter in direct reference to him and Roman. It's even pointed out in-universe by Logan. I suspect the orange side will do the same thing. Perhaps even have a night aesthetic. Perhaps the only dark side with white as his secondary color, representing his supposed morality for anger. Bonus points for any reference to the Templars. Basically, I suspect this guy is going to be, we can't expect God to do all the work. And if I'm speculating this much about a character who isn't even confirmed to exist, I might as well go all the way and try to guess the name. I'd say Titus. It fits the dark side's naming thing of 2 syllables and ending in US, and it's a book of the Bible, which would fit with the rest of my wild guessing. Patton would likely come into conflict with this character, or have to get shoved out of the picture for Orange to make his move. Like Remus knocking out Roman, or how Janus keeps kidnapping Logan. Somebody help Logan. But we need both sides of these aspects. We can't just have the good and soft parts of a thing. We need the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Okay, I think I just realized why Janus was the first real dark side to show up. So yeah, that's my 2,300 word speculation on the 7th side. If any of this turns out to be right, I will feel terribly clever, but I'm ready for anything the crew throws at us. Seriously, the last episode was amazing, and I could not have predicted that in 1,000 years. Really, no matter what Thomas and Friends throw at us, I will be a happy robot. I just wanted to talk about my many thoughts for a few minutes. Just 15 minutes. I just spent 15 minutes talking about a man dissecting human nature by talking to himself in costume. Well, I'm gonna go be overly analytical on someone else's time. See ya!